Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to a brand new Scottish football podcast here at the Tartan Stand. And I know what you are thinking, Jordan, if you did come across on TikTok, you promised us 5 fans, top six and bottom six. Well, as a host, you should know the basic rules of Scottish football. I clearly forgot about the Premier Sports Cup group stage, so that's kind of threw a spanner in the works. But I am here with Graham, Robbie, and Harvey. You probably all know them from TikTok, they are familiar faces. But let's get dive right into it. And we'll start with Robbie, actually, the St Mirren fan. It was an interesting season, Stephen Robinson, probably legend for St Mirren, won the Premier Sports Cup, left for Aberdeen when you were in a relegation battle. Out of, that season, last season, would you say it was a success?
Most definitely, and by the way, it's really good to be on the Tartan Stand finally. It's good to get it going, Jordan. I'm really looking forward to it. Some familiar faces I know for various other places as well, so that's always nice. But it was most definitely a success. You look at the last 4 years, really, and every season was successful in some way, shape, or form. We've managed to get back to back to back top six finishes, European football for a club. Listen, Mirren, that doesn't come around very often. I mean, it was 13 years since the last piece of silverware. Sorry to remind you there, Graham, early doors, but obviously beating Hearts in that League Cup final in 2013. So it was long overdue that we did get another run to Hampden. I think I mentioned it quite a lot that I'd never seen us play at Hampden before, because we went on a disastrous run of just not being able to do well in cup competitions, which is odd because you almost felt like a Robinson team was suited to cup competitions, and I think Aberdeen will probably do quite well this season in the cup. So it was quite odd, but we did eventually get that cup run. We made it to Hampden no twice, but 3 times in one season. Obviously ended up lifting the silverware in November. An unforgettable night, you'd say, at Hampden Park. I mean, we completely stormed Celtic after the pitch. You even go back to the round before, we stormed Motherwell after the Hampden pitch as well. Like, really dismantled them. It was a blockbuster season. Of course, you factor in, you mentioned the relegation battle. Look, I don't hold Robinson any bad regard for that and for leaving when he did. The Aberdeen job comes around once every so often, and let's be honest, he completed everything he had to. St Mirren achieved almost everything he could. I doubt he was going to get us any higher than sort of fourth. So it was the right time for Robinson to move on. Would I like him to stay at the end of the season? Of course, I would have liked him to stay for the next 10 years. But to sort of counterbalance that, it did feel like it was getting a bit flat in terms of the way the results were going. And the league form wasn't just a bad thing since December or January after we won the cup. It was the whole season. We were actually really bad in the league to the point where I'm surprised we didn't finish bottom, to be honest with you. I think if it wasn't such a drastically bad Livingston team last season, we probably would have been there. But I'm just happy that we managed to pick up the performances near the end of the season and put in a couple of decent shifts in the playoffs to keep ourselves up.
Well, speaking about the cup, obviously St Mirren are the holders of the Premier Sports Cup, which still feels a wee bit weird to say out my mouth as well. Obviously, new manager Craig McLeish, he has kind of put in a new system, more tiki-taka, you just say modernising football. Obviously, at the start, it kind of worked well. I remember he's beating Livingston or Aberdeen by 2 goals to 0. I'm thinking, this is domination from this guy. Kind of went a wee bit wayward, and there's some doubts from the St Mirren fans, I would say, probably just at least 20%. What's your situation with manager? Are you feeling back on him, or is that a doubt situation? Are you thinking this guy may not actually be the one?
I don't think there was any fan that was particularly excited by the prospect of him staying on. I don't think there was any fan that, first of all, thought he was going to stay on, past the end of the season. It was very much a case of his time's done, he's done his job, kept us up, time to sort of look for a more experienced coach. There was a initial sort of we're in a bit of trouble here. There's so many different factors that go into a manager. I was looking at it for the point where I wasn't just looking at his managerial style or the way he conducts himself. You've got to think of like pulling players into the club and being able to, have good recruitment. That's the one good thing you could say with Stephen Robinson. He knew how to drag a player into a club. He knew how to sell the club. Wasn't too sure if McLeish was that guy, but you've heard for the chairman and chief operating officer, and they fully back him. I don't see why we shouldn't. I've made various TikToks saying that. When it got announced, I've seen a lot of backlash on Twitter, X, or whatever you call it these days. But you just have to back the guy, and that's as simple as. And I think he's shown already with the signings he's made, with the Dumbarton game at the weekend. It's a new and exciting style that we've not seen probably since the Championship under Jack Ross. So no, I'm fully backing Craig McLeish. I think Craig McLeish is going to do a wonderful job with us. Not to be too biased, but I don't see us being relegated this season, which might come back and bite me in the arse come the end of the season, right enough. But I just can't see it now. And it's with the signings already, mate. I'm absolutely buzzing for this season to get going.
Derek McInnes will join you at the end of the season.
Yeah, maybe. That's a potential clip at the end of the season. He's not going to get relegated. But talking about new managers, Graham, obviously Hearts just went down a different managerial with Aaron Franken. What's your thoughts on that appointment? Is it one that excites you?
It does, because the style of football is going to be very different to what I've seen at Tynecastle for a while. No disrespect to McInnes, did a really good job last season, but there was a lot of games that felt a little bit kind of negative. I think this is going to be very different. He's come in with a very good reputation. When his name was bandied about, I looked online and stuff, and everything I saw was very positive. Plays progressive. He wants to play an attacking style of football. Plays 4-2-3-1. And everything I've heard and seen so far has been very positive. You know, I think the guy's come with a really good pedigree. I listened to Graham Jones' interview, and he was very, very high in his praise. And I think a lot of Hearts fans now are actually thinking, do you know what, this is a good appointment. Every appointment's a risk. We know that. Getting a foreign manager in who doesn't know the Scottish game, he's got to work with a lot of new players, but I think he's going to be very good. I think his style of football is going to suit us very, very well. And I think Robbie's excited. I'm quite excited about Hearts this season. I think we can try and go again. It'll be difficult, but I think it might take time. You know, any new manager coming to a new club, especially a foreign coach, he's going to have to take a bit of time to acclimatise, to get used to his players, to get used to the league. He's also got that Champions League qualifier next week, which is great. Looking forward to that as well. But yeah, I'm quite excited. When I saw the name coming up, I thought, who's this guy? But as I said, I looked online and stuff and looked at the stuff that was said about him, and he's very highly regarded, and that's fine by me.
Talking about time, do you think the Hearts fans will give him time? Because there's just some sort of different feeling now. You know, back 20 years ago when Hearts finished second, there was a bit of a chairman situation going on. With Tony Bloom, it's much more secure, positive, and it feels like the expectation is beginning to creep in from Hearts fans. Do you think he would be given time if it's a bit of a slippery slope the first 5-6 games in the league?
I think they will, because they know that he's trying to implement a different style, playing that attacking brand of football, playing a bit of high press, which we don't really do. We've not done for a while. I've heard a lot of Hearts fans saying that they will give him time. I actually think he'd probably get more time than what John McGlynn might have done if it was him. Because no disrespect to McGlynn, is a good manager, but it's kind of a bit like, do we want to go back to John McGlynn because he's been at Hearts before? I think a different manager with different ideas and a different philosophy, I think Franken will definitely get time. You know, I'm not going to be one of these people that if we don't win the first few games, it's going to go, now this isn't working. I think a lot of Hearts fans will give him time. And I think you listen to the players as well. I know it's the players are going to say this, but so far, they've been very encouraged by what Franken's brought into them, the philosophy that he's got. So yeah, I think it will take time, but I do believe that most Hearts fans, sensible ones anyway, will give him the time that needs to implement the style.
Harvey, talking about, Hibs and Hearts, what is your thoughts? You know, everyone's club at the start of the season before when Celtic and Rangers have obviously dominated Scottish football for 40 years is third place, get European football. Are you scared that the third place gap is going to get even bigger with Hearts and Tony Bloom as a club like Hibs, who's obviously Hearts is your main rival?
It's tough, to be fair. I mean, the only thing that I'm worried about this year is what Hearts' new manager is going to do with the money, because even just losing a Champions League qualifier, I think it's $1 million you get. $1 million, even for Hearts, that's massive money, even for, you're still a massive club, still one of the biggest in Scotland. We are probably in your shadows at the moment, which is going to change this year. We've made a few signings as well, but Hearts were a ball hair too close to winning the league last year, and they were a ball hair too close. And if I said to my dad, if Hearts won the league, I was going to absolutely silence myself, go emo, no go it until the World Cup started. So thank God I could go it, but I think it's going to be a mediocre season for Hibs and Hearts again. I think it's just going to go back to the Rangers Celtic domination.
I want to talk about the Celtic and Rangers domination, Harvey, because I see a lot of people saying this. Now, over the transfer window so far in the time of recording, Rangers have made some signings. You can see they've brought in a lot more leadership with McCrory, Cammy Devlin, don't want to mention him too much, and obviously Derek McInnes is managing and Shankland up top. But for quality-wise, you're thinking out the signings who have only really brought in Shankland and the goalkeeper from Hull. Again, so far in the time of recording, Celtic have only signed one player in Duran. What is people's thinking that the domination is going to still be there from these two clubs when realistically, you look at Hearts, they're the only team that's kind of improved.
Derek McInnes had really good tactics on a really low budget. This time he's at Rangers with a bigger budget. I will say this is the only time I'm going to mention it, Graham, because obviously it will probably sting you a bit. Cammy Devlin and Shankland to Rangers. Derek McInnes knows how to use the two players, so there's already two players ticked off the list. He already knows how to use them, he knows how to play them. Cammy Devlin is like a Jack Russell. He's nippy, he knows how to get fouls, and he knows how to get in your opposition's face and get them booked and not get himself booked. He knows what he's doing.
I actually want to talk about Cammy Devlin, Graham. Right, we'll mention it a wee few times. Now, I know last season he was incredible. Like Harvey said, he had an injury, he was everywhere. But if you look at his season as a whole, don't get me wrong, he was under different managers like Naismith, etc. His one really good manager was possibly McInnes. Do you think it is that much of a loss when out of his career at Hearts, he only had one good season?
How do I answer this without being disrespectful? No, to be fair, in the 5 years he had, he was good. He was very tenacious. He was like a Tasmanian devil. Winning the ball back was his basically primary skill, and he did get booked quite a lot. But I actually do think that last season, it sounds mental to say this for a footballer, but he actually was better on the ball than I've seen him for a long, long time. He was actually dominating games, which you never saw Devlin do before. But I do think you do miss a bit of bite in midfield, and he did give that leadership as well. And I think when we didn't have Shankland and didn't have Devlin parts of the season last season, it did affect us, no doubt about that. So I do think that Devlin will improve Rangers in midfield, but the only thing I would say is Devlin's one of these guys that if you don't have the ball, he's great to have in your team because he wins the ball back. Rangers should have most of the possession in a lot of games. I don't really think they need him for that. And I think if Rangers are going to sign more midfielders, which they probably will, I don't really know how Devlin fits in that team. Against Celtic, yes, potentially they won't have most of the ball. But I think if you're playing teams like, no disrespect, teams like Dundee United, Dundee, you'll be expected to dominate that kind of game. Devlin won't be any use in there because he can't attack. He's got no attributes for attacking at all. So I don't really think in some games he's going to fit that well to Rangers.
Talking about player signings, Robbie, there is one player that has kind of caught my eye for St Mirren, and that is Ramos, the Spaniard. I actually don't know if he got the second goal against Dumbarton. Dumbarton did put it up on Twitter. There's been a few backlash saying he didn't. It was McCrory. But watching Ramos and him coming to St Mirren, was it a signing you expected at St Mirren, the level of calibre of player to actually go to your club?
Never, and I think you've seen the reaction for a lot of the, should we call them, Twitter geeks that like to post all the data, stats and statistics and stuff. They were absolutely buzzing with a signing, probably more than St Mirren fans, to be honest with you. It did get the second goal against Dumbarton. I can confirm I watched the game. It was Samuel Ramos that picked up the double, so it was a pretty impressive debut, even though it was only Dumbarton. I think I was a bit sceptical of not knowing too much about the guy. When you read into it and you hear that particularly Kizridis for Hearts came for the exact same club, it does get you a bit more excited because I think although Kizridis wasn't exactly, he wasn't a wonderful player last season, didn't he? He sort of hit the headlights. He was a pretty decent player for Hearts, I thought, in the sort of few times I watched him. So that made me a wee bit excited. But I think Samuel Ramos is one of these type of players where it's so good because it can be utilised anywhere on the pitch. I mean, McLeish had him playing at the 6, the 8, the 10, had him playing up front some of the game. I mean, he is such a versatile player that I think is going to be a huge part of what McLeish wants to do next season. There's been too many times in the last few years under Robinson where we've not kept control of the ball enough. We've not had that player that just kind of links up the play, dictates the game a wee bit. That's the type of signing I'm expecting at Samuel Ramos. But the same could be said with, Chris Mockery and some of the other signings. Obviously, Seo Sasuli's got announced today from West Bromwich Albion. So that's another one into McLeish's plans. It seems like he's building such a young, still matured team that really want to just keep a hold of the ball and play attacking football. So that's why I'm excited with, Hibs under David Gray, who notoriously they play some good stuff. You've got Hearts under their new coach. Graham said they want to play attacking football. You know what you're going to get with the likes of Derek McInnes, Simo Valakari at St Johnstone. The league this season is so good for attacking threat and attacking teams that it's going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of exciting games this season.
Harvey, obviously Robbie kind of does speak about David Gray there. Now, Hibs last season, I'm not going to say it was a bad season. Could it have been better? Yes. But there's been a lot of reaction from the Hibs fans. I don't know if that's just looking at Hearts and maybe potentially Motherwell will throw them in there, that the season was a disaster and David Gray isn't the guy to put like Hibs back to that pedestal. What is your thoughts on David Gray? Is a manager you want to stay, or is it, time is ticking for him?
But honestly, I'm going to be real. Last season, I'm not going to judge anything on it. I think it's based on the season before that. We went 15 unbeaten. We got Europe. But the thing that killed us that season, it's that season that's made this season so poor, is the expectation. We get Europe one year, we're expected to get it next year. We're expected to finish better than what we did, and we didn't. So now everyone's against David Gray. He's an incredible manager. I mean, look at some of the stats. We've went through, I think it was 6 managers in 8 years. And that's not a stat you want to have as any club. Most teams in Scotland are not giving managers enough time. Like, oh, you've got half a transfer window. Oh, you didn't bring anyone in, you lost a game. Get out the club. You need to give them at least a season to prove their point and what they can do. And I'm all for David Gray at the moment.
Speaking about expectation, but obviously the clubs in Scotland, you say big, are Celtic, Rangers, Hearts and Hibs, the big cities in Scotland. For Hibs to have that expectation, do you not want that, but to have that expectation to go ahead? Obviously, it's easy to say as a fan, but if a manager that can't really deliver it, albeit, there were some injuries, I'm going to be critical of him on one point. He did bring in Jason Keogh, what I think is a fabulous signing, a fantastic signing. But I read the actual biography that he said that he'll fit in his 3 at the back system. So it's a man that doesn't really change his system when it isn't going well. I remember Celtic being 1-0 up at Easter Road. I think it was Iredale or someone got injured, or Iredale came on, sorry. And you're thinking, the time is ticking down, maybe go for it, throw in an extra midfielder, but he is very stubborn in his ways. Is that a critical aspect of David Gray that you'd like to see in him to change?
I mean, he could say Jason Keogh fits in, but we won't know how Jason Keogh plays until we see him. He could potentially go as a centre-back, pushing up more into the midfield. I mean, Rocky's most likely out for the full season because we thought he broke his foot on the last game of the season, but it turns out he's actually done his ACL. He's done his Achilles tendon. So looks like he's out for 11 to 12 months from now. I mean, we don't know about Jason Keogh, but I mean, we brought in loads of boys. So it just kind of, he'll definitely tweak something in the tactics. You can't go into a new season with the same tactics, or you just get absolutely flattened off everyone. But I could see us going somewhere this season.
Talking about the signs for Hibs, obviously, you have brought in a striker from Stoke City on loan. Still needing that physical presence up top, for me, in my opinion. Or she did bring on Soto in January, who, let's be honest, is abysmal, in my opinion. Doesn't really look great. But that's true, to be fair, I'll give you that. What type of striker would you like to see up top for Hibs? The physical presence. There's also talks of Lyndon Dykes, but I think he actually got spotted at Bristol City, so I don't know if that one's in the works anymore. But in your ideal candidate, who is your physical striker that's realistically in Hibs' budget, maybe even potentially plays in the Scottish Premiership?
Well, I'd just stick with Soto, to be fair. I mean, I've looked at the stats recently, right? I can't remember the exact numbers, but Dane Scarlett stayed for he stayed for the full season on loan. He's a young boy for Tottenham in the same squad as Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore went to Rangers, a harder team to play for, a harder team to thrive in. Thrives every single week, basically. Gets Young Player of the Year. I think it was him who got Young Player of the Year at Rangers anyway. You've got Dane Scarlett, the same squad, comes to Hibs, an easier team to play for. Still tough though. Starts nearly every game. Only scores like 2 or 3 goals. When you've got Soto who comes in January, subs most of the game and scores about 5 goals as a sub.
Graham, talking about, player signings as well, you've also brought in Renard, however you say his name, the midfielder, who does look exceptional. Also got the goal in a defeat against Livingston, a friendly, by 2-1. You also brought in Fagan Walcott as well as centre-back, who had a tremendous season at York City. Apparently, he was one of the best National League players ever to play in the league. So I know a lot of people might say that isn't really a competitive league, but listen, if you do it, you've still got to praise it. Obviously, the signs for Hearts are all analytical and data and Jamestown. Is it something that you have complete faith in, or do you think maybe Derek McInnes sometimes was right, bringing in a Stuart Finlay, etc., players that know the league and players that a manager's actually watched?
No, I think you have to have faith in it. You know, it's worked for Brighton, it's worked for Union Saint-Gilloise. I think you have to believe in it. And by all accounts, Graham Jones, the sporting director, is a very big fan of it. He spoke at the fan event yesterday, and he is a very big fan of it. And as I said, you're not going to get every signing right. But if you sign, for example, Cledo Braga, nobody knew anything about this guy when he came in, signed for Norwegian Second Division for £430,000, could be sold for between £8 to £10 million. That's what Jameson is all about. It's taking these players that you don't know and selling for a profit. And it's a lot of them might not work, but the signs we've made so far, I do think they are sensible. Yes, I also do think you need that kind of Scottish core. And I think Stuart Finley's been a really good signing. Yes, there was a few mistakes from the last season, but overall, I think it's been a fantastic signing. Craig Halkett, obviously not fully fit yet. A record signing a Giu, not fully fit yet, should be back soon. But I do think you have to have trust in the Jamestown project. And I think, again, a lot of Hearts fans do have trust in it. And you have to. You know, it's there as a very good tool. The manager, of course, still has to have his own say. And I'm sure there's players Rankin probably wants to sign on his own. But if he needs it, he knows that he's got the Jamestown stuff there to help him if he needs it.
Obviously, there has been a lot of speculation in Claudio Braga, especially with Leon. I seen something yesterday that actually more committed on Chimita, which I think is baffling. But if you're a Hearts fan, you'll definitely take that. Is that a player you expect to be at Hearts at the end of this transfer window?
No. I did numerous TikToks over the course of the season saying he will be away in the summer. He's been incredible. 17 goals this season and quite a few assists as well. He's been incredible. Like the way he presses, his attitude to the game, every single game, even when he's not playing that well himself, he still works hard. And I think anywhere he goes, he'll be an absolutely fantastic player. And Hearts do want between 8 to 10 million for it, which I think is brilliant. Because I think not just Hearts, but I think a lot of teams in Scotland don't actually get the most money for their players. And it's something that has to start happening a lot more. So we're getting a lot of money for Braga. I think he'll probably go to Leon. Ipswich for credit with their interest, but I think that's now not happening. So I'd love to see him in the Premiership. But yeah, I don't think any Hearts fan thinks he's going to be here at the end of this transfer window. I would love it to be. I would love him to stay for one more season. But there's absolutely no doubt he's going to go. And if he does, you've then lost Braga and Shanklin, who scored 37 goals between them, plus the assists. So you're looking at over 40 goal contributions. They have to be replaced. Now, apparently, Graham Jones again said yesterday that Hearts' priority is a CDM to replace Cammy Devlin and Benny, which I get. But I think we need a striker. We've not replaced Lauren Shanklin yet. And if Braga goes, he will have to be replaced as well.
Who would you like to see in?
I genuinely don't know. But if we're going to get 8 million for Braga, go out there and sign a striker for what, 2-3 million? Put it in the squad and sign a real top quality striker. Apparently, Vranken said that he's more than happy for say for Kabore, Kabangu, Wilson, Bassey to chip him with 8 goals for team or whatever. I don't think that's enough. I want a proper number 9. If Rankin doesn't want that, that's up to him. But I want a proper number 9 because we need that. Shanklin's away, who wasn't only our top scorer, but he was a captain, a leader, brought folk into the game. I don't think the strikers we've got just now are going to do that. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see it.
It's one of the priorities. They've got to have a really, really, really good Queen's chant to go along with them. Is that?
Oh, I mean, actually, with 8 million for Braga and another 10 million for the song, because nothing's ever going to beat that. It's the best chant ever. The guy that came up with it is a genius.
I was actually at the Livingston game where they drew to each Hearts, and it was actually glorious to hear, man. It was actually quality. But obviously, it did go to West Brom. But do you think Hearts missing out on Barney Stewart for only 1.7 million? Don't get me wrong, there is add-ons to increase that to +2. Do you think that's a massive missed opportunity for Hearts?
Personally, no. I think he's decent, but I don't think he would have fitted Hearts' style. And again, he's not a replacement for Shanklin. Again, I suppose you look and go, who is, given the fact what that guy did. But I think it made sense for Stewart to go somewhere else. He'll do well at West Brom, but I just don't think he would have suited Hearts, in my own personal opinion.
Now, there's also been talk as well about James Wilson. I know, obviously, some people in the group chat kind of want him at Dundee United and Kilmarnock at loan. Do you think this is the time for James Wilson to step up? Obviously, did have that weird loan move to Tottenham. I think that was not an obligation, but maybe just a potential buy-on. Obviously, Tottenham never really took it up. Do you think this is the time he needs to kickstart his Hearts career, or do you think he needs another loan development?
I hope he can. I was watching the other day. He's really bulked up, actually. He's a lot more physical than he was previously. So fair play to him for that. But he's only 19. And again, I was talking to mates about this. I don't really want a 19-year-old to lead the line on his own. Wilson's not a number 9. I hope he will be that in future, but I would like him to get a chance under Vranken. I think he will, because Vranken spoke very highly of him and said that he will get a chance. But I think if you're going to play Wilson, you need to play in a 2 alongside somebody else. But I think, again, that's another thing that I think Hearts don't do well either. We don't really play a lot of young players. Very rarely do we do that, and it's something that I've spoken about for a long, long time. And again, it's not just Hearts. Other teams do exactly the same thing. But I'd love to see Wilson get a proper run out and actually show what he can do. Because the guy, he can score. Like, he's still very raw as a 19-year-old, but he does get into the right places. His movement's pretty good. But I just think if you're looking for that guy that's going to go 20 goals a season, I don't really think Wilson's it. But I think he can bag a few. There's no doubt about that.
Obviously, talking about the Shankland loss, I think this could still be a loss for St Mirren as well, Robbie. Don't get me wrong, he has had these issues with his hamstring, went to Kilmarnock. Now it's also ex-captain Mark O'Hara. How big a loss do you think he's going to be to St Mirren?
Absolutely massive. I mean, a lot of the fans, I don't want to say we're happy to see him go, but we're very accepting of him moving on and weren't too bothered. I was the complete opposite. I thought losing a guy that put so much into the dressing room for so many years, a guy that has the leadership qualities of Mark O'Hara. That's why, I've seen a lot of rumours, obviously, Callum McGregor potentially moving on for Celtic. I don't think it can be underestimated how big these players are to a dressing room. Like, Mark O'Hara was massive. He was the club captain for well over 3 years. Scored some fantastic goals as well. I always remember that goal against Celtic in the 2-0 win under Ange, when I think it was Celtic nearly went unbeaten for a year, a whole calendar year under Ange. It's these players just can't go under the radar. I did actually see the day that Greg Kiltie, I think, has been made captain of Kilmarnock now, which pretty big for him. I even think Greg Kiltie going back to last season was a pretty big miss for us, to be honest. A player that gave us something in a position that we didn't even end up having last season. So losing any player's big, but losing a captain that's been there for 3 years. I mean, we've lost guys, Mark O'Hara, potentially Jonah Ayunga, with his injury record, Mikel Mandron, with his goal contribution. I mean, look, Graham speaks about a guy that you have to try and replace Shankland. We need to try and replace a guy that was consistently getting there 23 goal contributions a season for St Mirren. That's pretty near impossible with the budget we're working on. So, any player's big, but Mark O'Hara was, in my opinion, absolutely massive.
Well, there is one thing that's just absolutely mental, and that was St Mirren signing an actual permanent goalkeeper. I can't even remember the last time St Mirren actually did that. I was having to run my eyes. But obviously, he came from Huddersfield. His name's actually flown across my head, but apparently, he never really got a chance, and they were very impressed with him. So, again, it's another decent signing for St Mirren. But with the players that St Mirren have brought in, what's the players that they haven't brought in that needs to be brought in? Maybe like the positions. Richard King got signed last season. I thought, looking at him stats wise, like you said on Twitter, he looked very good, but he had a lot of shaky moments. Is this a guy that you think he can probably relish playing under Craig McLeish?
I think so. Richard King's really, really good on the ball, and to go obviously back to the goalkeeper Jacob Chapman signing for Huddersfield, it's really, really nice to have a permanent goalkeeper for once. I think you're probably going back to what Václav Lackey back in sort of 2019, 2020 to find the last permanent. So we are going back a while. But look, Craig has made it very clear he wants more permanent players. He wants players that he can work with for a few years. A player I've not even mentioned that moved on, Miguel Freckleton. For me, easily one of the best defenders in the league. I think Miguel was phenomenal for us. I genuinely, and Jordan, I like to think I'm a slightly biased on thinking players can play for big clubs, but Miguel Freckleton could have easily stepped into another Premiership club, especially in the sort of top 6-5, and I don't think there would have been any issues with that. I mean, the guy signed with the Austrian champions last. I mean, that's a pretty big move for him, and I think he is going to go on and do big things there. So good luck to him. So, the sort of second question there about positions we need, left centre half is a must. I know we've just signed Henry Fieldstone for Queen's Park. Again, another one of these players that sort of excites you with the way he sort of plays. But
good player, by the way, good player.
Aye, interesting to see if he can make that step up to the Premiership level, which I'm sure he will be able to. He can obviously cover left centre back, but I still feel McLeish's priority probably is getting another centre half in there. We maybe need a few other attackers. I know Sully's just signed today. Again, I'm really, really excited at the prospect of this guy. I've seen a few of his West Brom reserve games and sort of his best bits, if you will. The classic YouTube montage with some great music early to have it and all the rest. He looks like a very exciting player, so I'm excited with that. But I think McLeish's going to want to go a lot more wing-based this season, but players that can put balls into the box, sort of occupy that side of things. So I expect a couple more wingers, but definitely getting the defence sorted is going to be a big thing. There's a lot of conversation about the switch this season potentially to the back four and how it played out, because Robinson tried it once last season and Motherwell pummeled us in Paisley 5-0. So we need to be really careful how we approach the 5-0 and what sort of players we use. There's been a lot of talk about how Skogic's going to fit in. I think it's pretty obvious Gogic can play anywhere. I would trust that man playing in goals, to be honest with you. So it is going to be so interesting to see the transition, getting into a new formation, new style, and finally having a squad that feels like it's going to be together for a couple of years. Robinson was really good at building a togetherness squad, and I think we did have that for 3 or 4 years, but having that young squad that's only going to get better in 3 and 4 years is going to benefit us massively, because even if we do have a poorer season this year, the next 3 to 4 years, the squad's going to develop together. We're only going to add to it, and I think we will be sort of pushing steadily up that league again.
Talking about the Freckleton sale, I kind of did get banned from, I think it was either the sporting director or a scout anyway for St Mirren. He praised the sale of Freckleton, saying it was fantastic business. And like you said, I actually 100% agree with you. I think he can easily play for a top 6 Premiership side. For only to lose him for a 6-figure fee, I think over the years St Mirren have probably lost out in millions with their poor business. Is that a massive concern for you, especially as a club who obviously isn't the biggest in financial state in Scottish football?
I think it is. You look at some of the sort of business that's been going on, the clubs who are level. I think it was maybe Dundee United or somebody along the line sold a player for a pretty big budget. Like, it would have been nice to get a 7-figure sum for Miguel Freckleton, knowing his quality, and I praise him as actually the best defender we had at the club last season. A lot of people just come to it's Alex Gogic, what Gogic does for the club, but as an actual centre half, Freckleton was unbelievable. Really, truly one of the best that I think we've ever had, to be honest with you. You obviously go back a few years ago, you're looking at the sale of Lewis Morgan, you're probably looking at even further back the sale of John McGinn. Now, I know we've obviously had good sell-on clauses on these guys, and you even look at the guys like Dylan Reid, who's potentially could be coming back. You look at Evan Mooney that went to Arsenal. It's all right getting good sell-on fees, and I think we have had some good budgets for these guys, but I just felt with Miguel Freckleton, that should be the guy that we're going, no, you need to pay £1 million, or you're not getting this guy. And obviously, look, the club know how this stuff runs better than me, and they know what they want, and they know what they're happy with. And I'm sure we did get a pretty good hefty fee for him, so I'm happy in that regard. But I think, Jordan, I say this to a lot of people, I think the league as a whole's disregarded in terms of how much we can get for our players. I'd love to see our valuations actually skyrocket on these players, because I think they are more than capable enough to go and play in big leagues and have big moments. I mean, Lask could end up selling this guy for £10 million. If he has a couple of good years, clubs will be sniffing around him because they're the Austrian champions. Why would they not be? So I'd love to see the whole league actually demand a bit more for players overall, and I think you're starting to see it slightly go up, but I think there's another level to a guy like Claudio Braga, for example. Hearts, we spoke about him. That guy could be worth tens of millions of pounds, if he goes away and has a good couple of seasons in France or wherever he ends up. I always thought Shankland might have went for a big amount of money, to be honest with you, if he didn't end up at Rangers. There's just so many where you're looking and going, these clubs could be paying a bit more. Kieran Bowie at Hibs, for example, I thought Bowie, although I do believe Hibs got a decent sum of money for him, probably
$7 million is not what he's worth.
I probably know what he's worth. If he goes to the Serie A and does well for a couple of seasons, then his value probably doubles at that point. So it's just these things where I love to see the clubs overall start asking for a bit more for these players.
To be fair, I think Kieran Bowie's actually going to Sassuolo for 13 million, which again is a bit of a decent transfer fee if you're going to go on records for Kieran Bowie. Going back to Hibs, Harvey, there is a lot of speculation about Josh Mulligan. Obviously, Hibs have brought in a few midfielders. Do you think the same as Braga for Hearts? Would you be surprised if he's a Hibs player at the end of this transfer window?
Look, he said he wants to stay, but realistically, he can't control how much money we get offered for him. Well, he can and he can't. If we get offered about 10 million, right, for Hibs, we sold a striker for 7 million who wasn't worth that, right? He was worth about 3-4 million. Hibs always seem to do this. We always bring in these younger-ish or young talent players for a cheaper amount, and we've always sold them for a profit. We've done it with Venti. We've done it with Bowie. We'll probably do it with Mulligan. And honestly, I don't think there's many players that will be leaving. But the most two that I would likely see leaving is Josh Mulligan and potentially McGrath. He's been outstanding.
Also talking about players staying, Martin Boyle signed a new contract. How do you feel about that? There was a lot of rumours him potentially going back to Australia or even Aberdeen that I've seen. I don't know if this rumour's true. Apparently his mum actually supports Aberdeen. Again, don't know if that's true. But do you think that's massive business for Hibs to tie him down to another year?
Look, Graham and Robbie can both agree. Boyle, Shankland and O'Hara, all captains of the clubs. Boyle's been at Hibs for years. He's always been the player you can go to if something happens. He's always been the one, if something's going on in the team, he's the gel. It's the same with Celtic. If you stop Callum McGregor, you can stop Celtic. Boyle needed to stay that extra year, and I think that's going to help us a lot this year.
For the Hibs perspective, obviously, they have been bringing in some decent players, in my opinion. What else does Hibs need to do before they start the season? I think the first game is against Motherwell at home, which is a tricky fixture to kick off if you go in terms of last season. What more do you want to see from Hibs to do before the 2nd of August?
A tactic change, formation change potentially. A complete new tactic that no one knows about, the team know how to play and are comfortable with. Because, if you go in with a completely new tactic that no one's seen before, they kind of break you down straight away if they don't know it.
You could also do a Motherwell and get pumped 5-0 if you're a St Mirren fan.
Yeah, that's the other dodgy part of it. But I think David Gray's been smart with the signings. Half the players you have heard of and haven't heard of. I've never heard of Abdullah before. Jason Kerr, he was at St Johnstone. I'm sure he won the Scottish Cup with them when they actually beat us to win at Hampden. We won't bring that up though. That was pretty poor. But honestly, I think Scottish football on a whole, this is going to be a really good season for it. It's getting a lot more notice as well because of the World Cup partly, I'd say.
To be fair, obviously Sky did do the deal. Every game's going to be live on TV, which is a first time. But again, a bit of positivity. Should have been happening a lot sooner, but we'll deal with it. For the European side of things, I'll go back to you, Graham. Obviously, Hibs don't really know their team yet. Obviously, Sturm will touch on it a wee bit. Obviously, did do a wee preview yesterday. What's your thoughts going to Austria? Obviously, could have been drawn with Fenerbahce or Sturm Graz. Was that your preferred choice?
I think it was every Hearts fan's favourite choice. I wouldn't really want to go to Turkey away for it because I know how nuts they are. And then you go guys like N'Golo Kante there and Ederson, the goalkeeper, they're a very good side. It'll be difficult. I'm not taking it away that it'll be a difficult game, but it's certainly a game that Hearts can win. And the thing is, and it's a big if we could beat Sturm Graz over the two legs, even if we get knocked out the next round, we know that we drop straight into Europa League group stage. So it's the money from that could be massive. You'll have to win one round to get guaranteed group stage football. So we've got a decent chance of getting something out of this. Even if it's Conference League, I'll take it. But it's a tough game. But we have to, I said this on my own TikTok page, we have to come back from Austria with a positive result. We need to make sure we're still in the tie going back to Tynecastle, get the fans right behind the team. It will be difficult, but I do think that Hearts can get something out of this game. And I'm sure that Sturm Graz will be thinking the same thing. This is a tie that they can win. So it's a tough game. But I've got to trust this team and trust Vranken that they can get a decent result, even if it's a 1-0 defeat. Take it back to Tynecastle and get that tie won. We've got a very good chance here. A lot more chance than I give us against Fenerbahce because I think we're going to get absolutely hammered off them.
To be fair, speaking about Sturm Graz, the Austrian league, I'll say slightly better. Dundee United nearly took Rapid Vienna. Well, I think they did take them to penalties and obviously just lost it out. Sturm Graz obviously played Celtic and Rangers last season. I wasn't really impressed with them, albeit they might have brought in some new players that we don't know about as of the past recent few weeks. Obviously, apparently, the Chukwueze replacement is actually going to Stade Rennais, so that's going to be a big, massive loss to Lame. It's a game that I think Hearts, if they can win, sets up their season well. Like I said, I think they're slightly less quality than Celtic and Rangers. I think if Hearts can win there, maybe even if it's just by a 1-goal lead, you're thinking, okay, this could set up Hearts' season going into the long run. But to do a wee quick recap, I'm going to go through the first 5 games just quickly. Out of 15 points, just tell me the points and maybe the teams who you think will go through. Win with, sorry. So we will start off with St Mirren, and that is, first of all, Falkirk away, St Johnstone at home, Rangers away, Motherwell at home, and Kilmarnock away. Out of 15 points, how many points do you think you'll get?
I'd be happy with 9 at the first game. Some of them are really tough, so I'll go 9 points.
Out of the teams that I've mentioned, I guess the loss is going to come against Rangers. What's the teams you think will be able to take those points from?
I think we'll surprise a lot of people in the opening day. I think we'll take 3 at Falkirk, to be honest with you. I expect Falkirk with some of the players they've lost mixed with, I think that was a good first season back. I don't think it will be the same result, although again, I've just said we want to get relegated, so there's 2 clips coming the end of the season if they end up top 6 and we end up in the Championship. But no, I think we'll pick up 3 against Falkirk. I think we'll pick up 3 against St Johnstone. I expect us probably to lose to Rangers, to be honest with you. Then I maybe think we'll probably beat Motherwell, to be honest with you. And then I think we maybe lose at Rugby Park, and that'll sort of set us off nicely. Maybe 9's been a bit too optimistic, but I just think with this new style, we might shock a few teams. I mean, I think we could, sorry, cut in there, Jordan, but I think we could face an absolute plummeling job. Ibrox, I really do hold Rangers to a high regard this season with the calibre of signings I've made, particularly the manager, to be honest. I think having that guy like Derek McInnes in there that knows how to win games, I think they could go on a very good roll this season, a roll in a few teams. So hopefully it's not us, but I do have a pretty bad feeling about that game.
And then we'll also go over to Harvey and Hibs. You know, Hibs does look Fast 5 is a wee bit more difficult in my honest opinion. You've also got Motherwell at home, Rangers away, Kilmarnock at home, Dundee away, and also the Derby, Hearts at home. I think that's a midweek fixture, which will be a wee bit tasty. Out of 15 points, how many points do you think Hibs will take?
13.
Really? Wow.
Right. I'm going to say 13, but by next week I'll probably have said that we'll just take 12 because I'm not giving anything for the Derby. Because, look, we could put out a B team, Hearts could play their strongest team. And this is no disrespect to Hearts, Graham. You could probably agree. You could play your B team, we could play our strongest team, and it would still be a game.
That's true. And it can go on a Derby.
It's a game where no matter who is on the pitch.
And then, obviously, concluding with Hearts, you've obviously got that tricky first fixture with Aberdeen where it looks like no away team can actually get anything. Dundee United at home, obviously did drop points, back in October at Lame. Could have been a 3-1 defeat. I think Dundee United got 3 offside goals. Obviously, Falkirk away, St Johnstone at home, and obviously, again, Hibs away is the last one. Out of 15, how many points do you think Hearts will get?
15, obviously. We'll go for a league title here. Come on. We're not losing any game. No, I think it's going to be difficult. I think there'll be a lot of difficult games this season for Hearts with ranking, and obviously European football as well could be an impact. Our record at Pittodrie is horrendous. I can't believe we've not won this in 2016. That's brutal. I'm going to say an optimistic, hopeful 12. Anything higher than that, I'll be delighted with that.
So out of those 5, who do you think potentially you're losing to? Obviously, it's not going to be Hibs. Well, you never know. Aberdeen obviously have brought in, Stephen Robertson. It'll be an interesting season for them, obviously. I'll speak about them in tomorrow, part 2 of this video. But yeah, lads, it was a pleasure. For the viewers at home, if you're watching this late, please hit that like button and subscribe. If I have edited this properly, there will be a wee timestamp for part 2. We'll speak about Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, Dundee and St Johnstone tomorrow, and potentially Celtic if I don't want to get into a rant. Spoiler alert, I am a Celtic fan. But yeah, thank you so much, lads, for joining in.
Before we go, Jordan, I've got one thing to ask you all, right? And I want you to ask the boys in part 2 tomorrow, right? What is your SPFL hot take? Anything that you think can happen? I'm going to start off, right? And I'm going to say St Johnstone are going to finish in a European place.
Wow. Fucking hell.
Every team that's came in the last 4 seasons has finished in a European place. So why can't St Johnstone?
I'm not saying sacked, but Martin O'Neill's not the Celtic manager by November.
Let's hope he doesn't die. He's at that age. That's getting cut. But It is as big as St Johnstone, but it's not really a surprise, I guess, because the players are brought in and the style of play. But I think Kilmarnock could finish in a European place. Graham, you got anything you don't want to get clipped up here?
Derek McInnes will be sacked by October and get a job at McDonald's, the rat.
Welcome to Paisley.
Yeah. Lads, thank you for coming on. Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Tartan Stand. This is part 2 of episode 1. And as you can see down below, I'm with Kyle, who will be representing Motherwell, Darren, who will be representing Dundee, Tam, who's obviously a Rangers fan, and Alex, who's a St Johnstone fan and not a Rangers fan that we all thought with the undercut photo. But welcome, lads. It is great to have you on. I'm actually going to start with you, Alex, because, you know, St Johnstone, new team in the Scottish Premiership. You've been getting a lot of digs in the group chat about getting kicked out next season. So we'll let you have your voice. Simo Falicari, you know, wonderful manager, in my honest opinion. But there was a wee bit of a blip in critical analysis back in December when he's only won 1 game out of 5. Do you think his stubbornness to change will affect St Johnstone this season?
No, I don't think it will. I think I know Simo very well. I've met him. He's very focused. You know, I can see it in his face. Like every time I see him, he's got a plan. He sticks to it, and no matter what opposition we face, you know, going forward now in the Premiership, we're much better going now than we were like before when we got relegated. So I think he's one of the best managers I've ever seen and I've met in my life, and I've seen the players train. You know, I've seen an open training session last season, and you know, gave me an insight, and I love the guy. So no, he's going to do so well for us. I know he will. So
I don't want to put this pressure on you, right? But there's been like a running theme with the newly promoted clubs getting top 6. Do you think that's a position that St Johnstone can finish at the end of this season?
Oh, realistically, yes. I believe so as a fan, because we've I feel like the recruitment has been fantastic. When the ownership Adam took over, and then hiring Simo, and I've seen a really good process from top to bottom, like with the recruitment from some of the academy players featuring in the team, and then sourcing some good players out with. So it's really, really positive. I love to win. The dream is to win the Premiership, but realistically, top 6, European football, brilliant. I would take that. So,
Darren, going on to you. Obviously, you're a Dundee fan. I will hold my hands up here. I did predict Stephen Presley to get sacked last season. Obviously, did turn a lot of favours around in that second half of the season. As St Johnstone's a newly promoted club, and most people think Dundee might still be bottom 6 next season, do you feel them in a sense?
What, bottom 6?
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to be, but realistically, we've just not made enough signings yet to say that I'm confident we could do better than that. But honestly, pretty much every season, staying up's the goal, and then anything on from that is a bonus. We've got a young squad, but we're making signings. Alan Forrest, I was just saying I've not really seen much of him, but boys are happy with that, saying that we've added experience where we needed it. So if we keep making a few more signings like that, then I think we should be all right for staying up and away from relegation.
Alan Forrest. He was like a type of player who wasn't good enough for the top 4, but good enough for the rest. I think he will be a good signing, but there's other good signings as well. Sam Basia, the centre mid, I think he's got from Slovakia. He looks tidy on the ball. Idris Odeteo, I think he got from Bromley, who won League 2, who kind of actually reminds me of Christopher Ayer, the way he just runs with the ball through the middle.
It's a big presence we've been needing, The best year looks like he could, but he's one of these that you don't know until they played. You know what I mean? It's like there's not enough like footage of him or stuff like that, but he's apparently got an eye for goal, which is what we've been missing in midfield.
I also want to touch upon this. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but how big a loss is Luke Graham going to be?
Massive, but it was always going to happen. We were kind of expecting that, and to get good money for him, that's not something we usually do. We're quite poor at getting good fees for our players. So what was it? 2 million? I think
Actual
2
good
million.
price.
And then we got 500 grand for Cometio as well, who I didn't rate nearly as high as Graham, but he was a good player, but he was always injured and I only had a select few good performances. So we've got good money and we've got money there to rebuild. So if they spend it wisely.
Talking about Luke Graham, Tam, do you feel this is a player that Rangers have missed out massively on?
I'm not sure if I'd say massively. He was definitely rumoured to be looked at, and he probably would have been a good signing. But I think the way we are looking at things now, we don't really want to sign within the league. I think we are much better at signing with the league. The way our kind of scouting works, all our best kind of players have been from out with the league. Don't get me wrong, the boy's a good player, probably would have done a job, but you see it all the time with players coming to Rangers. Lyle Cameron came to Rangers, wasn't at the standard at all. Coming from another Premiership club who's down in that kind of bottom six area. For me, I'm happy we missed out on it, if I'm honest.
You say the signings outside the SPFL have worked more in the recent, but if you look back to the Walter Smith, Alec McLeish's, even Stephen Gerrard, he brought Kyle Lafferty back, Stephen Davis, players that have played in the league and also did get my league title. How do you come to that opinion that players in the SPFL aren't up to the standard outside of Europe that Rangers go for?
I just think that when you look at the way these players play for their own clubs, when we're watching from a kind of outsider view, we could go and use that same money somewhere else and find a much better player, I'd say. We could find someone more technical ability, much better fitness, somebody that knows how to play a couple of different styles of football. Because when you're playing within our league, you're mostly, when you're at that level of your Dundees, all the kind of clubs, you've kind of been playing the one type of football. You're obviously not the most technical player if you're playing in Scotland. And I'll say this all the time. Scottish League's shite. It's not a good league at all, if I'm honest. But I would much rather us take our money and go out to your Croatias, your Portugals and that. You can find a good young talent for the same money who's probably a much better level above.
I want to touch upon Derek McInnes, obviously the Rangers' new manager. When he did get announced, I would probably say there's still more in favour of Derek McInnes, but I would say around 35% was against. What's your opinion on the appointment of Derek McInnes?
I personally think it's a brilliant appointment. I personally think it's an absolutely brilliant appointment. It's something we've been crying out for. We've been crying out for it since Gerrard left. Somebody that kind of knows the league, knows the club to a degree. I like the way Derek plays football. I like the way he conducts himself as well. You can see it through the training videos and stuff like that and the player announcements. Just carries himself well, carries himself to that Rangers standard. Obviously, we'll need to see how kind of things turn out in the coming weeks. But I think it's someone that Rangers fans can be excited about. I don't think it's going to be the same as his tenure at Hearts or his tenure at Kilmarnock or Aberdeen. I don't think he's going to be playing the same football week to week, especially in Europe as well. I think it's going to change for Europe drastically, which could be to his detriment. But it's all the Rangers fans have cried out for it. You can see it on Twitter, you can see it on all social media, crying out for that Rangers man. We've got him here now, so we'll see how the fans react.
Obviously, talking about new managers, Kyle Mull's got a new manager, and Alfred Johansson. Obviously, Jens did leave, but I did see they're actually part of the same Copenhagen staff room. So, are you expecting to see the same style of play with this manager?
Aye, it's something that was suggested by Jens actually. So I'm going to assume that he will play the same sort of like high intensity, like high risk sort of football. And as you've seen from last season, that it went off to a shaky start, but as soon as like the players started to adapt to what he was trying to play, like you could see it on the pitch. Like folk were saying, we're the best football inside the league. I wouldn't go as far to say that, but you just see it.
For Motherwell, obviously the Motherwell manager, like, what's your expectations going into the season? Because let's be honest, it's going to be a rebuild because you've got your Watts potential leaving. He's actually got a bid again from Turkey, 1.5 million. Obviously, Motherwell's holding up for 1.8. You've got Just, who's going to leave soon, let's be honest. Maswinisi, he's still been linked with Anderlecht. Obviously, Callum Ward went to QPR. Do you think Motherwell can go again next season and finish in that fourth place? Or are you expecting a wee bit of a tumble because of the massive changes?
I feel like we will decline, but not like drastically. I feel like we can still challenge for top six because it's more than possible. But we a lot of like key players. I know they're not left yet, but realistically, some of their faces will go. But obviously, some new faces will come in. So I just feel like it won't be the same, but we will still be like, since Kurt McMillan, the chairman, has actually came into Motherwell, you can tell there's been a difference in like how he runs the club, and like there's just like a more positive vibe towards it. So it could be caught in two minds. Like I could say we could do better, I could say we could do worse, but I just feel like we will still get top six, but not as good as a season as we done last season.
I want to go back to St Johnstone because Simo Valakari is definitely that type of manager's in your face, in possession. How much forward are you looking at in the Scottish Premiership? Obviously, it did come in back end, was it February, when St Johnstone really got relegated, never really had much time to implement his tactical awareness. And yeah, is this something you're very excited for, especially going up against the big teams like Celtic, which, let's be honest, did beat by a goal to nil?
Yeah, I was so impressed on that day, even though we got relegated in that season. But it's always a bittersweet moment. But I feel I believe in the players. They look seen obviously yesterday in the League Cup against Lithgow, and seen a bit of pre-season, and even in the Championship, just actually us just playing our style of football and getting the passes going and actually scoring goals and clean sheets. It's been really good. And having Toby Stewart back, I'm going to mention him. He was brilliant last season in the Championship for us. Something like 20 clean sheets has been impressive. And, it's a bit unknown coming into the Premiership now for him to handle. But I believe in the players. They're going to handle it really well. Simo and the team got a plan. Back the manager no matter what. Back the team. Yep.
You kind of actually took away my next question. It was Toby Stewart, the Abati signing a new contract, which is basically like a brand new signing. Obviously, Zach Mitchell, I think it is, came back for Charlton and loan.
That's right. Yeah.
That defensive reinforcement is obviously strong for St Johnstone. But I want to talk about a player who's obviously left and isn't coming back, and that is Josh McPake. Do you think he's going to be a massive loss for St Johnstone, or do you think the signings, I've got a Spaniard from the Spanish second division, do you think he'll be able to comfortably take the boots of Josh McPake?
It's tough to say. It's really I need to actually see the Spanish boy play first, but I have seen some clips when the club posted when he was scoring the goals and that for when he was back in Spain, and I think it was like in the third tier of Spanish football camp. But I think being to be seen, but I think yes, of course, Josh. He did pretty much all. It was all him last season for us. So yes, he's a big loss, but we have the reinforcements now to actually push on and compete. So I think a few more signings through the door and we'll be okay. So I'm confident.
to be fair, there was a player obviously behind Josh McPake as well, and that was Peyton. He was a fantastic player last season. Obviously, you have brought him back. There were a few comments from the Dundee United fans saying he was an absolute failure then, but he was very young back then, so we won't go too detailed into that. How massive is it is to bring him back to St Johnstone too?
Oh, he's brilliant. He's becoming one of my favorite strikers at the moment. He's the way his mannerism, he getting towards goal, and that's the kind of striker that we need. That quality. He was so amazing for us last season in the Championship, and I think he's going to score some crucial, important goals for us this season. So. We also have Josh Fowler. I mean, he's okay. He's not bad, but I have a feeling he might not get as many goals for us as Peyton would. So, and obviously Louis Lloyd is injury prone. So, yeah, it'll need to be seen. But no, Peyton's going to serve us really well.
And talk about players, Darren. Obviously Dundee. There's a position they definitely need, and that is a goalkeeper. McCracken left. I think we've all seen the goal from the halfway line against Airdrie. If you haven't, definitely go check it out because it's embarrassing from the keeping. What players do you think Dundee need? Because, like you said, they definitely need a few more. They also have lost two good wingers in Congaree and Yogan, who's definitely went to Aberdeen. What players in your positions, in your opinion, needs to come in first choice?
Definitely a goalkeeper first. Probably another two wingers, to be honest. I know we just signed Forrest, but and Charlie Riley is coming through. He seems to be picking up. That'll be like a new signing, but I would still say at least one winger, another maybe couple midfielders, couple defenders. Honestly, just you need
team.
to just get pretty much. But we just to add depth more than anything. I think now after losing the two centre halves, we're going to have Ashley. Probably, who did we sign actually? We signed Owen Bevan from Bournemouth, so that's a solid signing. I would say a right back, centre back, keeper on the wings. I think we're all right up front. Maybe one more in the middle of midfield.
I have seen some predictions at the start of the season, and a lot of people are still underwhelming Stephen Presley. Do you have a fear going into the season with Stephen Presley in charge, or has he got your full confidence?
No, yeah, he's got my full confidence. He definitely deserves a chance. After turning it around last season, it was absolutely dire up until about December, and then we picked up a few wins. And I don't know, just he seems to be able to get a song out of that. That wasn't the best squad last season, I think, and obviously a good few of them were loans. So he's got a big job to rebuild them. But the signings we're making now are permanents, which is something we've relied on the loan market recently. And it always comes back to bite you at the end of the season. So permanent signings, which I don't mind that we're taking our time and getting permanents rather than just going loan. You know what I mean? But yeah, Presley definitely deserves his chance.
And we'll go to you, Tam, as well for Rangers and players. There's been links with Chermiti to Leon. Obviously, Raskin's been linked to every single club on the planet. What is your thoughts on Raskin? You know, there's a lot of when it's good for Raskin, he gets praised, but when Rangers lose, it's Raskin's mentality. He kicks out at players. Would you be happy to see Raskin go?
Happy's a strong word for it. Happy's a very strong word for it. I'd be content with it. It's probably the word for the right fee. He's there and he's not there. He's kind of one of the players that could one game control it. The game's his, best player on the park, and then the next game you just don't see him. There's nothing to be had for him. Anything over kind of your 12 million, your 13 million mark, I'd be more than happy with him. We've got a good midfield there just now. We've got obviously Devlin coming in. Cheers, Hearts. We'll take everybody. Thank you. We've obviously got Chukwani in there as well, who a lot of people don't really rate him, but he's one of my favourite players. Connor Barron in there as well, and Diamandi. So if he goes, not a massive kind of issue for me.
You've named the midfielders there. There's one thing, in my opinion, that kind of lacks from that midfield is creativity. Do you think Rangers need to add a lot more creativity in that midfield?
We probably do, to be fair. But it kind of just depends on how Derek's planning on playing with us. If we're playing with two settles, as long as we've got somebody that can play a long ball, we should be all right, really. Barron's got a bit about him, creative-wise. Devlin, I've not seen much of, if I'm honest, so I'll need to get a Hearts fan to tell me. It'd probably be good to add somebody like that, but I think because of how over-flooded our midfield is just now, I don't think there'll be anybody kind of coming in.
And there has been talk in Twitter, obviously, you just see negativity when it comes to clubs' transfers. A lot of Rangers fans that I've been seeing is saying that these aren't really players that's going to take you to that next step. Maybe apart from Shankland and the goalkeeper from Hull, who I think is a cracking signing. Do you think Rangers need to still strengthen a wee bit more to challenge this league title?
We need to strengthen defensively, 100%. We need to strengthen defensively. What we've got is not good enough. Talks about Suter leaving to Leicester. We're kind of ramping up today, so that'd be nice. One thing we're fucking dying for is a winger on either side, really. We've not really had that in a good couple of years. Don't get me wrong, Mikey Miller was brilliant last season, but it wasn't permanent. We need somebody there that can kind of play the wings. Not a single one of our wingers can cross the ball who are currently at the club. Not a single one of them can be any sort of creative cutting. That's where I'd want to strengthen. The goalkeeper's an interesting one for me. It's a very interesting one for me. So I messaged a Mr. Hull page, basically, a fan that does social media content for Hull, and asked him, here, could you just write me a wee paragraph? And every single thing that he named, I was going to write for him about Butland. They were all kind of the same talking points. And I was like, it was poor distribution. Commanding of the area wasn't that good. Getting down to the left side, again, not that good. And I went, hang on a minute. We've just spent $6 million on a boy that is basically the same as what we've got. What are we getting into here? We'll obviously find out kind of when the league comes to play. But for us, I think it's just kind of playing that first game against St Etienne. The scouts and stuff and all the people at the club will determine from that one kind of what we need. It's a wee bit annoying for me watching all you guys talk about your club football, and I've not seen a single minute of play so far.
Well, there's another club who's really only played friendlies, nothing competitive, and that was Motherwell. Also, did lose 4-0 to AGF, the Danish champions. That was just youngsters playing. He did play some first team members against Genk, and it did look kind of good on the ball. Obviously, got a big, massive, well, not a big, massive test, but as a European qualifier, so anything can go next Thursday. How's your feeling going into that game for as a Motherwell fan?
I feel like we are the favourites, predominantly because I'm not going to say the Faroe Islands aren't a big nation, but just going into it, the style of play we've got, I've always wanted to see how good it would do in Europe. And obviously, if Alfred's going to keep with the same sort of style, then I think we've got as long as we get a good result going into the away tie, that's all I care about.
Well, I want to ask you this question as well. Do you think Elijah Just will be a Motherwell player by the next Thursday?
Nope. I think with all the media, the more clubs that are going in for him is just making him more valuable. And I generally don't even see him playing. But when do we play Genk? On Friday. I generally don't see him lasting until then.
He's obviously going into last season. I'm going to say an opinion here. I think most people will disagree with it. I think if Motherwell had a striker in who they're actually bringing in from St Louis City, they've also brought in someone from Switzerland in the second division. If they brought in that with Evoke, I think Motherwell gets a top 2 finish if they had an out-and-out striker.
I-
Is that
I-
an outlandish comment?
Nope, I agree. Because from the start of the season, I think we gave Stamatolopoulos the nod, and he couldn't hit a barn door if he tried. To be brutally honest, like I've always tried to back him because I've disliked him because he works hard. He's like the most hardest working striker I've watched in the past 5 years. But this finishing, like he can't get in any right positions. So, but the first 6 months we had him at striker, it was like hell. Then he went out on loan to Sydney, but then through that 6 month period, Maswinese was just playing it in the wing, and then as soon as we convert him to striker, that's when he stops scoring goals, which is something that I really don't find like real.
Sorry,
Actually, I
Jordan.
go into. Oh,
Just
here we go.
Just a quick one here from your old Rangers pal. Who the fuck are you thinking they would replace in the top 2?
Well, they'll be above yous for certainty. Rangers will be 4th. And
Aye,
realistically, like I'm a Celtic fan, right? And I know this is going to get clipped up. If that decision does go against us, well, go for us against Motherwell, there's an argument like Motherwell that could be above Celtic. Celtic was absolutely horrendous. And I actually want to talk about Celtic now because I've mentioned the club name, right? Up for Celtic. A joke is one word to sum it up. Martin Neal, a lovely guy. I really wanted him to leave on a high because I felt this board would do this. Could have walked away because this was the first title he's actually won where the title race was actually close, which was absolutely mental for me to see that. Obviously stayed. That's also up to him. We've got that football fever back, but he's coming up with outlandish comments, which you would get away 20 years ago. But when you've got sources in the game that know everything from every club, him saying it wasn't the board's fault for the delay in the staff joining, when we figured out that it was leaked out that we were actually underpaying them by 35%. We then are not getting players in. Gavin Strachan went to West Brom, and a lot of people don't really know what Gavin Strachan did, and I'll include in that. But there was a WhatsApp rumour going about which came to tuition, and you don't really believe WhatsApp rumours, but every single detail this guy mentioned was coming to truth about the Sean Maloney, the Mark Foran, and then you're thinking to yourself, what is going on here? And then he comes out after we get dismantled by Sporting Lisbon 4-1, which you say they're a top Portuguese team. We beat them 2-0 last season, a friendly. Like saying we're optimistic. Michael Nicholson is banging on the phone for players, transfers. This guy just not going to the phone. Do you know why? He never picked up the phone when Birmingham was calling for Yang because he was too scared to answer it because it was that late in the deadline. We've got a chief executive that is scared to answer the phone, and we expect him to make calls to other clubs for signings. It's a joke. We got brought in Duran. I will give credit where it's due. You can't be negative when there is some positivity. He does look a player. I haven't seen Carabao play in the league, just won the Champions League, and he did get 5 goals against Benfica, Newcastle, etc. So he is a player. But this is a bigger rebuild than Postecoglou, and we're not getting it because we're going to lose the likes of Engels. He looked very disinterested in Sporting Lisbon. He wants away, which fair enough. I don't think he's lived up to that 11 million price tag. Negrin will be away, which for the stats he brings in is impressive, but when you watch him, he's not really that good. Alistair Johnson, I think he could be away. He had a good campaign at the World Cup. Maeda's definitely going. Hatati's leaving to West Ham, apparently. Jota's out until Halloween. Carter Vickers, we don't know if he'll be the same because he had a massive Achilles injury. It's absolutely mental. And we've got Sarachi, who we're not paying 1.5 million for. And he literally came on the pitch against Hearts and won Celtic the league. It's like we're setting us up to failure here. And I want to go to you, Tam, because it is obviously between Celtic and Rangers, these league titles. Do you think the way Celtic and Rangers right now with the players they've brought in so far, can you confidently say that it will still be either Celtic or Rangers that will win the league by the end of the season?
You know what? I can say that, but I know it's not going to be yours. I can say that confidently, and you can clap it up all you want. The way Celtic are being run now, you are getting run into the ground. MD can see that. So I can understand what the frustrations are with you guys, and I can totally understand it. You'll be lucky to sign more than maybe 4 players this window. And you need signings. You've got Jota out, who hasn't played fit in about 2 years.
A year and a bit, aye.
You're doing pointless things. You're keeping players on that you don't really need. Just keeping players on the wage bill, spending money where you don't need to. And that's probably why transfer funds aren't becoming available. Us, on the other hand, how many have you got in so far? Maybe, 6 or 7 already? We're not even halfway into August yet. We're going to strengthen. Celtic, I don't see anything happening with them. I would probably say Hearts will be challenging. They won't obviously get it over the line, but I would say it would generally be between you and Hearts for second place.
To be fair, I actually did predict Hearts to win the league if they keep Braga. That's a massive if, obviously.
Rangers.
Talking about attackers, Alex, you did speak about Josh Fuller a wee bit previously.
I did, yeah.
Do you not feel as a wee bit concerned that he was brilliant for Queen's Park? Was he got 19 goals in 30 odd games?
That's right, yeah.
Queen's Park going to get relegated. I even get clipped by Queen's Park by saying it. And then they become a better team. And then you go into St Johnstone, it hasn't really been that signing which you was expected, especially for a championship level. Does that concern you?
It does a bit. I think with any, new player coming to the club, you give the guy a chance and see what he proves. But he's got some good touches on the ball. It's the service, the service that he's receiving to actually score the goals that he did back at. Obviously, I don't know Queen's Park very well, but from those stats there, proved to be the case. But then the championship part, but I think it was like with when we had Adama Sidibe, he had a bit of a goal drought. I think that when he was with us, part of last season, but I think I have a feeling, this is just my opinion, Fowler might have a goal drought himself, and then he'll slowly score the goals. But I'm just predicting here. But no, he's in good hands. He's getting good with the coaching staff. That he knows that himself. Simo knows that. We know that. Well, I know as a fan, but some of the fans have been saying, well, my fans saying, not just getting going a bit, but I think we just need to remain patient. That's all you can do.
I know that's all you can do, but can St Johnstone remain patient as a club in the top flight? Championship, St Johnstone was obviously one of the 2 favourites. Everyone thought it was going to be Ross County. But in the Scottish Premiership, I don't think these will go down, but there is, obviously, when you're a new club, you're obviously going to be one of the favourites. Can St Johnstone give Fuller time, but?
Sorry, say that again.
Can St Johnstone give Fuller the time, or do they need to go out and get that striker just to be fully remain confident in staying in the Scottish Premiership?
Oh, I think we definitely need another striker. We can't rely on Fowler effectively. We can't Fowler and Payton. I think we need another striker in the door, even like towards the end of the summer transfer window. And then if we do struggle, come past Christmas into the new year to get the January window, then we can. So I'm confident that the club's got plans in place. They do assess, obviously, like every club, but they do assess situation players, but again, I have every faith in my players to do well. So let's give the boy a chance. Well, I'm giving him a chance anyway. I back my players. I believe, and yeah. So no.
So to recap this off, we will do 2 quick questions, okay? So I just want to go through, we'll start with you, Alex, again. We come at the end of the season. What position do you think St Johnstone will be in?
I like to see us get to the third or fourth, top six for sure. But that would be. But I would say sixth position, so it can guarantee that European football. Yeah, I'll go with that.
I actually think the European coefficient is actually dropped. I think it's only top 3 now, and that's if the club that wins the championship, the Premiership, wins the Scottish Cup. So, yeah, it's a wee bit of a difficult task now. Tam, we're going to you. I think we already know your prediction, albeit I think that's every Rangers fans' prediction over the past 5 years, and it hasn't came to tuition. Who's going to win the Scottish Premiership?
Firstly, fuck up. Getting first comfortably.
Wow. How many points?
Fuck. Now I'm trying to work out how many points you can win the league by. Or win
Well, like, I mean, like, how many points by a distance between you and second?
Oh, four.
I wouldn't really say that's a definition of comfortably, but there you go.
Still a game and a draw. You need to draw, so.
Darren, we'll go with you. What position do you think Dundee will be in?
Realistically, 7th or 8th, I'd be happy with.
And Kyle, on to you.
I think we'll just drop one. I think I'll say 5th place.
And now for the next question, it's actually going to be the first 5. So, right, so Alex, don't worry, I will tell you the teams and the venues. So Kilmarnock at home, St Mirren away, Celtic at home, Hearts away, Dundee away. Out of 15 points, how many points do you think St Johnstone will get?
Realistically, well, I like to go with. I'm very confident. I'd say all 15, man, because it's.
I like it. I like the optimism.
Yeah, no, I think you got to be, because you can't doubt. We've had enough, like, lose the odd game here or there or get by. I want us to try and get as many points on the board. So go with all of them, man. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go into you then for Mull. I think it's kind of a difficult first 5 depending on how he's actually performing in Europe. If you get good results in Europe, so the morale might be up. Hibs away at Easter Road. That's a good away day in the capital. First game. Falkirk at home. Aberdeen at home. St Mirren away. And Dundee United at home. How many points out of 15 do you think Mull will get?
But 9 or 10, I'll say.
What teams you dropping points to?
Falkirk definitely will drop all 3. And I think St Mirren away. I don't know why. I've just got a really bad feeling.
You think you'll lose to Falkirk at home?
Yes. Falkirk's a doggy team.
Then we'll go into you, Tam, for Rangers. Dundee United away, Friday night kickoff. Got to love that. Hibs at home, St Mirren at home, Aberdeen away, and then Falkirk away.
The only one I can potentially see slipping up in is that Aberdeen game. But I would probably say 15 if I'm honest. It's not a bad running, you would say, for your first 5. But you probably couldn't choose a better running, if I'm honest.
Does the first game not scare you because of Rangers' first opening games for the past 3-4 years? You haven't came away with a victory.
It does scare me, but I don't think that's going to kind of play in the mind of MD, if I'm honest. Don't get me wrong, a Friday night's brutal. And the hangover on Saturday's going to be even worse. But I don't think it does. Fingers crossed that curse gets fucking lifted and we come away with all 3 points on the first day, sit top of the league.
And then Darren, we'll top off with you. Celtic away, that's a tough opener. Aberdeen at home. The Dundee derby, obviously you'll be away for that. Hibs at home, and then St Johnstone at home.
I like the home games. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Aberdeen and Hibs are what they have been in the past few years. I think both of them struggled last season. The away games are obviously Celtic. That's a free hit, because if you're saying you're thinking you're in turmoil first game of the season. It's a great chance to just go be fearless. But I don't think we'll get anything. But the derby, I could see that being a draw. I could see a couple of draws at home. So say 9 points, 7 points.
To be fair, if he's play the way he's did at Celtic Park in the Scottish Cup, he could get something. That was a horrible time to go there, pissing in the rain, soaked, and having to watch Celtic play. That was a demoralising game. But yeah, thank you, lads, for joining on. Thank you to the viewers at home. If you are at this end of the point of the video, if you can hit that like button, it'll be very much appreciated, and subscribe. There will be daily episodes up on every Thursday. But for now, we'll see you in the next one.